Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and yes, you heard right. This is a Mega Drive controller, or Genesis controller. Damn it, I was gonna do a thing. I was gonna say, oh, it's a Genesis controller, but I'm gonna call it a Mega Drive controller. No point now, is there? This is a Mega Drive or Genesis controller, if you prefer, a 6-button one, although we'll get onto that in a minute, that works with the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, as you might have predicted if you're a long-time viewer of the channel, yes, this is another controller by 8BitDo that they have sent over because we just can't get enough of them. And they can't get enough of just sending them to us. We're going to be taking a good close look at this thing with the second camera as well that we sometimes use. I keep meaning to use it more, but it's a faff. And I'm going to take you through the ins and outs of it, how well it works as a controller on the Switch, and other systems as well, because it doesn't just work on the Switch, no, it works on all manner of lovely things, which we'll go into more detail about in the video. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling, let's dive right into things. Okay, so first things first. This is obviously a Genesis or Mega Drive controller, and it is based on the 6-button one that came out a little bit after the original 3-button one, which I've actually got here, actually. So this is the original 3-button one that you can see here, and it's a little bit worse for wear to say the least, and this is the modern version that is a little bit more modern, as you can see, and if I can get some light to fall on it, that would be even better. It's actually quite a bit smaller, as you can probably see there, than the original 3-button, but it is much closer to the size of the original 6-button one, but obviously it comes with a few perks, a few modern lovelinesses. For example, the shape is not exactly the same as the original. It's gone for a slightly more ergonomic look and a more ergonomic feel, more importantly. It's also got 2 shoulder buttons at the top here, which on the Switch function as ZL and ZR. Also, the circular bits that go around the buttons and the D-pad are now thankfully matte and not the horrible gloss of the original. Obviously, that horrible bit is entirely subjective, but I can't stand gloss controllers. They get manky in about 4 seconds. Sometimes less. It's also got additional function buttons for the Switch, or indeed another platform if you're using it on that, because it also works on Windows, and Mac, and I think Linux, and I'll have a list at the bottom because I've forgotten. So you can still use the home button and the screenshot button just as though you were using a Pro controller or a pair of Joy-Con, or even a Pro controller with an R. The button layout is a little bit odd to say the least in order to get it to feel like a Switch controller, and so as a result, B is A is B, Y is X, and X is Y, so that it matches the Nintendo layout if you like. The C button and the Z button, on the other hand, are the R and L button respectively, which is a little bit weird to say the least. It feels weird to sort of use these as shoulder buttons, but it makes a lot of sense for, you know, the Mega Drive controller, because obviously 6 face buttons in this configuration is quite unusual by modern standards. Now, I've been using this a fair bit, and I must admit I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I have never owned a Mega Drive, let alone a 6-button Mega Drive controller, and the simple reason for that is I grew up with different systems and just never had it. I had friends who had them, of course, so I did use Mega Drives, but it was always this controller, you know? 6 buttons weren't that popular over here as far as I know, or at least they weren't in my circle of friends, and as far as I know, that's the entire population. So I can't realistically say whether this feels exactly like a Mega Drive controller, but I will say that it feels very comfortable, very ergonomic, and the only thing with having all these buttons up here is that sometimes I accidentally press C instead of B, which is R instead of A, and this is confusing. But I think that's down to user error more than anything else. And realistically, the rest of everything, you know, sort of the build quality, the feel of the buttons and everything is absolutely lovely. They feel just as you would expect them to. Maybe not if you used a lot of Mega Drives. Although a colleague of mine has also reviewed this thing and has said that it feels absolutely fantabby-dozy, so who am I to argue? I must admit I was a little bit worried about the D-pad because I don't know whether you can see, if we have a closer look here, you can see the D-pad is more of sort of a raised thing like that. And it's sort of all one piece and it's sort of circular and stuff like that, which is very much the whole sort of SEGA thing. That's how they did their controllers, and I didn't think I was going to like it because it's not the Nintendo D-pad, and that's the one that I've used more than anything. Except something else, which we'll get onto in a moment. And so I genuinely didn't expect that I'd like this part of it, but you know what? It's absolutely lovely. If you want to do rolling moves and things like that for fighting games, it's absolutely superb. Not that I play a lot of fighting games, but I've been playing things like Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff like that, and you know, you want to go into a spin dash, a rolly as you're running, it's good. It works so well. Having said that, the D-pad does have a bit of a weird issue. And that's that it seems to have some sort of slightly softer material on the top to make up the D-pad, which is fine, you know, that's good. That's, you know, that feels nice on the hand. However, I don't know what it is that they've done, but it seems to be not entirely attached. And I don't know whether this is to maybe give it the sort of the full movement that you'd expect from the controller, but it results in this. Hopefully you can hear it. For some reason, when you put real pressure on the D-pad, it's a bit sort of squeaky and crunchy, as though the top part of here is sort of moving around where it shouldn't do. It's gripping on with some sort of maybe some sort of rubberized plastic or something like that, and it's moving around and it's sort of creaking. And that's not very nice. However, it doesn't really come up in play. The only time I did find it was in very intense situations, and realistically at that point I didn't care. Another potential issue I can see in the future is if Nintendo do go with the whole sort of SNES Online, you know, you get SNES games like you get NES games, which I've been using this on as well. Obviously NES, not SNES, because that doesn't exist yet. Sadly. The L and R buttons are mapped to ZL and ZR. Now, it's possible you may be able to remap them when they release them. However, if you can't, this is going to take you out to the menu, and realistically, if you want to play a SNES game, you want these to be L and R. You don't want them to be ZL and ZR. So maybe in a firmware update they can change that, but at the moment it's a little bit... but it is all hypothetical, so who knows? It may not be an issue. It's just something I thought it was worth mentioning. So on the Switch, it's fine, you know, it's a good retro-feeling controller. It feels good in the hand, and overall, if you were a big Mega Drive player and you like the 6-button controller, it's gonna be a good for you. I'd certainly say it's a good for me. However, there is another string to this thing's bow if you're willing to fork out a little bit more. And that is this thing here. Now this, you might be thinking, what is it? Well, this is a little dongle that you plug into your Mega Drive to allow you to use this controller wirelessly. So you can get a wireless controller on your Mega Drive. Oh yes. Now, as you might gather from what I said earlier, I don't have a Mega Drive to test this on. However, I do have something else. Yes, I have the original Master System that I grew up with, although that's not it in shot. That's a slightly different one. Or is it? No, that one is the original. It's the other one I hooked up. So I thought I'd stick it in, see whether it works, because I'm fairly certain they run on the same kind of protocol. And you know what? It only bloomin' does. It was kind of a little epiphany moment for me because, you know, I was getting ready to record this video and I was like, you know, maybe 10 minutes away. I was nearly about to put clothes on. That's how close I was to recording. And I thought I'd try this out, so I stuck it in, you know, set up the Master System and everything, stuck it in, paired it up, you know, all seemed to be okay. And then I just sort of sat down and tried it out on Alex Kidd and I thought, okay, this kind of works, you know. And then I tried a game that I actually grew up with. I tried Lemmings. And I remember Lemmings. I remember playing Lemmings with this thing. This is one of the original controllers I had. And the foam behind the D-pad has completely perished. Also, this is a terrible controller. And so I plugged it all in and started playing Lemmings. And I immediately started feeling a real sort of lovely feeling. I was sat there in my pants, playing Master System games from my childhood, the original games that I grew up with. And I was using a modern controller, and all of a sudden, everything just felt good. You know? The Master System has a terrible controller. I love the Master System to death, but this is an appalling controller. It really is. And this controller that I've got here isn't a great deal better. You know, it's old, it's decrepit, it's a lot better than the Mega Drive Master System controller, but it's still not great, you know. It doesn't have a lot of the modern luxuries. So playing it with this and having everything be so responsive, it was genuinely lovely and wonderful. I was actually able to play Lemmings on a console, which you just shouldn't be able to do. I tried other games as well that are a little bit more action-based, and I genuinely couldn't believe just how effortlessly this thing worked. It's kind of a weird layout. That's 1 and that's 2, I think, or is it the other way around? C is 2 and B is 1, which is kind of a weird layout, to be honest. I'd much rather it be on B and A, but that might be down to the that might be down to the protocol of how Mega Drive controllers work with, you know, Master Systems, because they're not inherently designed to, but they do work, so it may just be a limitation of that. But you know, it was honestly one of the nicest experiences I've had with Master System games beyond nostalgia, you know? I mean, obviously nostalgia's a big part, but it just worked, and it just worked so nicely, and it's got all the mod cons, you know, it's wireless, the buttons are responsive and modern and lovely, and oh, it was just so nice. I had this little sort of epiphany moment. And it made me love this a lot more than I did. I thought it was good before, you know, I thought, oh yeah, you know, but you know, I didn't really see myself using it in future. But with this little dongle, it's given me much more drive to try and get my Master System running properly on an HD screen. And there are mods and things you can do. And I think now I'm gonna do it, because all of a sudden I've got a way to play my old Master System games with a controller that's genuinely lovely. And it makes me realize just how spoilt I am with the Switch and all of the wireless controllers, because yeah, it makes it all the lovelier, because playing with this thing, it should be nicer, but it's not. This is a nasty way to play Master System games. Understandably, this is going to be an extremely niche scenario, and you know, it will work on Mega Drive as well. It's not just Master System. But it's still going to be a really niche scenario. There are not going to be that many people watching this video that go, oh, I need that, I need the dongle, I need to, and all that sort of thing. Most people are watching this and just thinking, oh, I like that, I'm going to use it on the Switch and stuff like that, and that's great, but for such a specific scenario, it works so well. And I really have to hand it to 8BitDo for doing this kind of thing, because, I mean, also this is like a serial connector or something, isn't it? It's fairly standard. I wouldn't be surprised if this worked on other systems as well, which is massive. And I think you can you pair other controllers to this? Oh my god, it works! I'm playing Sonic the Hedgehog on a Master System using a SNES controller. I just synced this to this to play Sonic the Hedgehog, the 8-bit version, on an original Master System on an HD TV in 2019. And I think I might be the happiest thing in the world right now. This is another 8BitDo controller. Obviously, it's designed after the SNES controller, but it works. It just connected. It took a while, but then it just connected, and I was able to play Sonic the Hedgehog on Master System using a SNES controller. Oh my god, I love the fact that so many 8BitDo peripherals just work with each other. They just work. I just plugged it in. It just worked. Well, there you have it. That is the M30 and the, I don't know what this is called. From 8BitDo, thank you so much for sending this over. It's not a perfect controller. There are a couple of things with it. It's mainly the D-pad. I don't know, why does it do that? Why? But you know what? Overall, it's bloody marvelous. Oh, it charges, it's got a rechargeable battery in it. It charges via USB-C as well. Also, no notable input lag, no more than any other wireless controller I've ever used. Overall, yeah, it's bloody good. It just, why? Do you like this? If you do, buy it. If you can justify the expense, that's how recommendations work. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you relive your childhood in a really, really lovely way with that subscribe button, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. If that clip didn't work, I'll do it here. Ugh. Oh my god, it works! I'm playing Sonic the Hedgehog on a Master System using a SNES controller. This is the greatest moment of my life.